All right. And we are officially live with week number 3. What's up? I see people are coming in now. Who do we have in here? I see Casey, Marcus, Michael Fitz. I'm gonna call you Fitzy because I know that's your nickname. Trevor is here. What's up? What's up, Trevor? Landon, Aaron. Oh yeah. We got a party. Kelsey. Yes. Yo, 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 what's up? Welcome, welcome. Week number 3. Mm. Hey, hey, yes. All right. So today has been pretty interesting for me. So Jen, there's this big world's dance cheer competition that happens once a year, and it's now. And Jen's my wife, and she's a professional photographer. So she has been gone all day, which means I get to spend a lot of quality time with little Xander, who is about nine and a half months right now. It's also a little bit stressful trying to take care of him and set stuff up for this meeting here at the same time. So it was like a little bit like Mr. Dad juggling baby and setting this up. But how are you guys doing? How's your week been so far? Marcus says still haven't been able to get the mind map for week number 2. So did you try like in the last few days, Marcus? Because I think there was a link that we switched over there. Grace is here. Hey, Grace. So let's give a big welcome to Grace, who just joined the program yesterday. We're happy to have you here. Beautiful. Yeah, it's cool. Like we keep on adding really amazing people. I've talked about before how I think one of our superpowers is just like attracting really awesome people to build this community. So yay. Kelsey says value ladders coming together, starting to set up a few video chats to get folks' opinions on it. Yes, beautiful. So that's one thing we're going to dive pretty deep into today is in-tune surveys and how to basically cultivate a relationship with your super fans. So let's go ahead and let's get started. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. Boom. All right, our trusty mind map. So up until this point, we've covered your morning formula and kind of like your big picture mindset for like your internal thermostat. So how do you actually kind of plot out how do you create a vision for who you want to become so that it pulls you in that direction and it's not like you're constantly fighting gravity in order to do it. You want gravity kind of to pull you towards who you want to be. All right, content formula. Last week we talked about how to produce Grammy-worthy music and videos without necessarily breaking the bank. That was a lot of fun. To start out with, I'd love to maybe share a few takeaways from like last week. So I know we did this at the end of last week, and a lot of people talked about like the viral formula, kind of like the familiar plus unique twist was kind of a cool thing. What was some of your guys' biggest takeaways from this last week? And I guess for me too, this is our first. The group program is like a complete beta. It's new for us. I'm trying to make it as valuable as possible for you. So it's really helpful for me to just kind of hear what are you guys finding valuable. So yeah, let's take a minute or so to just share a few of your biggest key takeaways from last week. Kelsey said the value ladder is starting to come together. She's got some video chats set up to get people's opinions on it. That's awesome. All right. And what else do we have in terms of takeaways for last week? The importance of keeping the thermostat up, not just raising it. Yeah, that is really important. In the thermostat, I mean, that's something that's a continual thing because I swear one of these days I'm going to get a new webcam so it doesn't freeze. The thermostat, I mean, especially if you're just like staying in your same surroundings. So like, you don't necessarily pick up and like travel a lot and you kind of have the same friends and family that are around you, then without even necessarily wanting to, like they probably want to support you. They want what's best for you, but they probably have a certain thermostat set for you. So just like is extra important for you to get really clear on your mindset and like who you want to become and maintaining that level. Really put the viral formula into an easily digestible perspective. Cool. Glad to hear that. Putting yourself in environments that stoke the sense of agency that says, I deserve the results that I want, and taking action out of that. Yeah. Aaron, you have such a great ability to articulate yourself. Yeah, that's fantastic. James says that his biggest challenge right now is getting my morning schedule. Yeah, that can be a tough one, especially if you already have like a pretty busy, like jam-packed schedule. But yeah, I think a big part of it like comes out of the night before, like almost, yeah, if you can like set up to even go to bed like an hour earlier so that you can have that time for your morning routine, it can be really helpful. All right, awesome. So yeah, let's jump into week number 3. So this is a really big one. Your Superfan avatar, a little known. Oh yeah, by the way, Landon just mentioned this. Make sure to click all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see what you're saying. And it's not just sent to me, unless you got a super secret message that you only want me to see. All right, Superfan avatar, a little known secret for creating a raving fan base. I gotta hide all this so I don't give it away too quickly. Bada boom. Bada boom. Cool. All right, so we just did the welcome and the recap. The purpose of this session specifically is to get really dialed in so that you can start to understand like who are your super fans, what makes them tick, where do they hang out, because like your super fans are what's going to drive your entire career. There's this theory of 1,000 true fans. I'm sure like a lot of you have heard of this before. Is the idea that most of us, we feel like in order to have a successful career as a musician, we need to have hundreds of thousands or millions of fans. And the thing is, like, you don't need millions of people. You don't need like hundreds of thousands of people. You don't need tens of thousands. All you need are like 1,000 super fans and 1,000 true fans. And you could define them as like someone who is passionate enough about your music that they spend at least $100 a year on your music. And that's really not that hard to do across, especially like all the different things we're going to talk about. It's not that hard to get $100 a year from a fan. And if you have 1,000 people like that, then that's a 6-figure income from your music. It's like, wow, yeah, here we go. So really it's like, how do you who are those people? Where do they hang out? And how can you build a relationship with those types of people? And one of the most valuable tools that you could create is something called your Superfan avatar. All right, so like a superfan is really, really valuable compared to just like a casual listener. Basically, like I would define a superfan as if you already have been doing this for a little while and you already have some people like this, then you're going to resonate with this right away. And if not, you'll get there. And maybe you've even been a super fan. So, but like a super fan is someone in my mind, it's someone that like they go out to all of your shows, and it's like every time you have a new item on the merch table, they buy it. So like a lot of times they'll spend $200-$300 like at the merch table. And it's someone who's like maybe like a little bit obsessed with you, but in a good way. And there are different like degrees of super fans, and obviously people can go like way too far, in which case it can become a problem. It can be kind of creepy, but there's sort of a balance where it's like a really good super fan is someone who's like really invested, really passionate, connected, maybe a little bit on the edge of like obsessed, but in a positive way to support your music. The type of person who like shares your music with all their friends. So like they're like your ambassadors. So like they're telling their friends about you. They feel like they have ownership over you, and they just want to shout about you from the rooftops. So I would say that someone who's like a super fan is probably about 100 times more valuable than like a normal, just like casual listener. Both in terms of like promotional, like they're going to help support your career, like tell their friends about it, but also in terms of like financial, like they're probably going to support you 100 times more than any other fans. And in terms of like your own like mental energy, I think like it just helps. It helps to have people who are like that about your music. It kind of gives you faith. Like their enthusiasm can really help to drive you. So it's really important to have some people like that, and to realize that like everyone's not going to be your super fan, and that's okay. Like your friends, a lot of your friends, a lot of your family, they're going to support you, but they're not going to be like super fans. They're not going to be like super into your music. And if you don't make it a priority to find the super fans and to relate with them and connect with them and have conversations with them, and you're only having conversations with the people who are like you're already kind of close to, like your friends and your family, then sometimes it can cause you to kind of lose some faith in yourself, because they're not as impressed by you, or they're not as like, dedicated. So it's really valuable to have those people that believe in you so much. It can kind of re-energize you. Does that make sense? Yes. Awesome. So can you guys hear and see me all right? Just a quick video audio check. Yeah. Okay. I think there might be a little bit more delay, this time than last time's done it. Yes. All right. All right. So your super fan avatar. All right. We already talked about this 1,000 true fans theory. So the number one key to your success with your music career is this one thing: getting really, really clear on who gets the most value from you and your music, and building a relationship with those people. And so in order to make this happen, I think there are really kind of like three questions that we need to ask. And to be honest, like this is a big theme of the entire program of working together, is like getting clarity on these three questions, which are, who are your super fans? Like, who are those people? What sets them apart? How do they identify themselves? Where do they hang out? So essentially, like, where do they congregate? What communities are they involved in? Because as like humans, and like within like music, as fan bases, like we tend to like congregate towards communities. And so those communities are really, really valuable to like tap into. And if you know where they hang out and what communities they're involved in, then that's essentially where you want to go, and start building some of those relationships. So, one sneak peek of like what is a good place that your super fans probably congregate. How about concerts for like musicians that are in your genre, that are like maybe a little bit bigger than you, or even like around your size? Clearly, like that's where a lot of the right, perfect people go together and congregate. So it's really valuable to be able to connect with people there. So I know a lot of you came in through like the tour hacking workshop. We're gonna be talking a lot about tour hacking and like virtual tour hacking in the next couple of weeks. But that's kind of the whole premise of one of the reasons that works so well, is because those people who congregate there, like those are super fans. Those are the people who are like this. At least a lot of them are. Hey Levi, what's up, man? All right. So the third question is like, how do you build a relationship with them? So this is really what the process of building a fan funnel is all about. Is about kind of automating the sequence of like building a relationship. And so we're going to go really deep, the nitty gritty of like automating that. But to start out with, I think it's just like, you have to realize that the funnel is just a platform to allow you to build that relationship. And when you're first getting started, a lot of times it's harder to build a relationship with someone virtually. Like if there isn't that connection, then it's hard to build the relationship. So when you're first starting out, I think it's smarter to kind of do something more hyper organic, something like tour hacking, or something where you can meet those people and you can have a conversation with them to build a relationship with them. It kind of comes down to like, how do you build relationships in general? And it's usually by, introducing yourself to someone, having a conversation, providing value to them, kind of finding common ground, asking them good questions, being a great listener. So that's kind of the premise of our Intune surveys that we're going to be talking about at the end of this training. James says, one of the difficulty I found is giving up time I have with my friends to devote to eventual dance. Especially this weekend, I noticed I'm spending a lot of time talking about Game of Thrones and the new Avengers movies with my cousins and friends when I should have been focusing on building up my funnel. It's a hard thing to separate myself from. Yeah. I mean, I think that's kind of that's the challenge in a lot of ways when you start to like make some of these changes that you want to make within your morning formula and like becoming the person that you want to be, is that you're going to be met with the person that you used to be. Gosh, one quote I love was something like, in order to become who you want to be, you need to become not you. And which is kind of interesting because in a lot of ways, I think that we really value authenticity and like the idea of like being ourselves. And I think the only issue with that sometimes, I mean, I think authenticity is super valuable. Like you need to be yourself. But I think the idea of how we identify ourselves, like who are we, is a lot less permanent than we think that is. Like it's a lot less malleable. I think like who we are is really this, we get to create ourselves and decide who we want to be. And so in order to become who you want to be, you need to become not you. So when you start making those changes, those habits are going to come into play. Yeah. Spending time with bickering kids. Xander hasn't quite gotten to that age yet for me where he's starting to bicker Levi. So I'm sure I'll be able to relate with you pretty soon. Marcus, what's the minimum amount of time that you should have to invest in your super fans? Because with all the stuff I have going on, it's hard to spend time with those people outside of shows. Yeah. So I think one really valuable thing to do is like to kind of look at where are the lowest hanging fruits. So like, where can you spend time with those people in your normal day-to-day life? So yeah, like outside of shows, like shows are probably the perfect place to have some of those connections, Marcus. Like, so I would just make a point, if you're already playing shows, going out to them, to walk up to people and like introduce yourself and to meet as many people as possible. And based on some of what we're going to talk about here, really identify who are the super fans here, who are the most valuable people in terms of like building like relationships with, and I should probably walk up and introduce myself to them. And it is a process. Like the more you introduce yourself to new people and meet them, the better you're going to get at it. I am like or at least I used to be, especially like now I'm a little bit better. I've kind of gotten out of my shell, but I used to be like a super shy, awkward kid. And like walking up to a stranger and introducing myself was like scary. Like I would like shake doing it. But it is a skill. Like it's something you develop over time. Yeah. So let's keep moving on here. All right. So how do you know if someone is a super fan? Like what makes them a super fan? What are some of the things that you can dial into where you're like, okay, this is someone that I should probably like have a conversation with? So here's some of like the tall tale signs that I've noticed, that someone is like a super fan. A lot of times it's someone who, if you could see their bedroom, and I know this because I've played a lot of house concerts and I've seen a lot of like the bedrooms of, okay, that sounds kind of dirty. They've shown me like with the band, they'll like show the different stuff because they have a lot of posters and they have a lot of memorabilia. But that's one kind of sign, is like, usually it's the type of person who is like, they have tons of posters of like band posters. They probably have like tickets saved. They have a lot of merch. They have different like little like memorabilia stuff, like they're collectors. That's a telltale sign of someone who's like a super fan. Usually you can tell by their profile, like their social media profile, because they'll have like a lot of music related posts on either the Facebook or Instagram, where they'll either have like video footage of shows or like house concerts. They'll have pictures of band members. If they have like pictures like in their profile picture with band members and like wearing like a VIP pass, that's usually a pretty good sign. Sometimes they'll have something where it's like, this person, like this band member followed me on this date. And this was funny that my wife just sent me a screenshot of this this one that apparently. So first of all, you go to her profile, it has a quote, "You got to roll with the punches and smile with the sad." So this is a Paradise Fears quote. And then she has, "Michael Walker followed me on April 12th, 2019, like on her profile. So like when I talk about like someone who's like a super fan or someone who's like really dedicated, it's the type of person like that. And so That's I definitely I want to kind of train your mind to kind of notice like what are those people, what are the patterns? What are the patterns between the people who are like the super fans? Because it's gonna be really valuable to know that, so you can focus on them and kind of like build those relationships. So super fans, someone who goes to a lot of live shows, they probably talk a lot about like going to live shows. Um, it's the type of person who um, usually like they're friends with a lot of bands, or especially like they like to talk about being friends with a lot of bands. Like it's someone who clearly like their sense of like their passion is music. And so a lot of times they get a certain sense of like validation or a sense of self-worth from their relationship or their connections with bands. And so a lot of people who are super fans are people who are going to get house concerts and pay you $2,000, $5,000 for a single show. Those are the type of people who it's worth it for them. Like they get a big sense of validation, or like they really enjoy being able to tell people, yeah, like I'm friends with Michael from Paradise Fears. He was just at my house a couple of weeks ago. So those are really valuable people to talk with. And it's funny because there's one person like this. So I was having a session with Arrows in Action, and they live in Tampa, and we were talking about their value ladder, and we were talking about like the concert, the house concert, like the $5,000 house concert, and they were like, "Wow, that sounds really awesome. Is that really something that like that people would pay us for? Like that seems like a lot of money. We're not really that well known." And I'm like, yeah, like, I get that. And you don't necessarily have to start with $5,000. Like we started with like, between $1,000 to $2,000 per house concert. And we weren't like, well known or anything. And so then like they invited me to a show. They played a show in Orlando. So I went out to the show, and as a joke, like while I was out there, we were like eating dinner outside, and there's like a line. So I'm like, guys, we should go like talk to some of those people. And they're like, yeah, we probably should. And they're like feeling kind of like shy. And I'm like I'll do this for you. So so I walked up to like three girls in the back of the line, and basically I started a conversation and pretended that I was one of the members in the band, and was just like basically made up like a big joke about how we were like vetting everyone before they get to come inside of the concert, and making sure that like they've heard of like Arrows in Action. And anyways, like so we had this conversation, and then when we went inside, probably about like 10 minutes later, two of the girls come walking back up to me and the rest of the band, and they're wearing 2 t-shirts. Like they just went and they just bought 2 t-shirts without like asking anything. So I'm like, that's super awesome. And then there was one girl that we were having a conversation with, and this relates to the house concert. So she recognized me. She recognized me because she had followed one of our tours like 4 years ago. She had followed us for like a week, and had gone to like every show. And so she like wanted to like take a picture. And then afterwards she was telling me about how she had like she was like the street team leader for like three different bands like in the area. And she had recently just like paid $5,000, specifically $5,000 is the number that she said, for a house concert. And I was like standing next to Jesse, and he was just like, wow, okay. Like, cause we had just had that session, and the band's like, it wasn't much bigger than Arrows in Action. So like, that's the kind of person who it's like, man, like you should make it a point to like connect with someone like that, because I mean, it's someone who clearly has a big passion. So when we talk about who gets the most value from you and your music, it's clearly like someone like that is probably going to get a ton of value out of you and your music. Like there's something about her identity that's very wrapped up in it. And she gets a lot of enjoyment out of her connections and out of probably supporting local musicians, because, a lot of times like they need help. So yeah, so that's one thing I really want to encourage you is to like keep your eyes and your ears focused for like people like that. especially when you're doing your Intune surveys, like you're going to notice that there are a few people who are like very responsive, who they're like everything you're saying, they just think you're awesome just because you're a musician. Like you, like they're going to be really like excited just to talk with you. And so those are the type of people who it's like you really want to cultivate more relationships like that. Because another thing too is like those, it's not like you're not going to have any people who are fans of your music just like casually, like they're still going to come, but the more people that you have that are like this, who are getting a ton of value or super into it, the more of like that's going to disperse out across like more people. Like there's a natural movement where if you have really strong roots, then there's going to be natural branches that kind of go out that aren't quite as strong, but they still kind of support the main system. Your super fans are like really pretty integral to your roots. Like they're like big, thick roots that like that come off the roots and really support you and your music. Does that make sense? I know we're getting kind of like deep in analogy world. Sweet. All right. So your super fan avatar. So this idea of creating an avatar is a really, really awesome idea, because one of the biggest challenges that I think a lot of musicians are struggling with, and I myself have struggled with a lot, is getting clarity on like what's our target market, like who's our demographic, who are we speaking to. And because of that, sometimes we can kind of feel like, oh, I just want to appeal to everybody, and like I don't want to define myself. And because of that, like we don't really attract like anyone. We would just kind of like lose most people. And when we're creating like a video to everyone, it doesn't feel like it's speaking to anyone, and it can feel kind of awkward. I don't know if you guys have ever had this situation where it's like you are speaking to a camera and it's just like a camera. It's like you like sitting in front of the camera. And you're like, hi, my name's Michael Walker, and blah 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 blah. And you're like, man, like that felt really weird. Like why? Like because there's kind of this like this disconnect where if you don't really like if you feel like you're just talking to a camera, not a real person, then our tone of voice can change pretty like dramatically. So your superfan avatar is basically like, this is something you craft over time. You're going to get better as you have more conversations, as you get a better idea of who those people are. But your superfan avatar is basically like if you took all of those superfans that you do have and you kind of looked at like what are the patterns between them, who, like if you boiled all of them down, you compressed them into one human, who would they be? What would their name be? And what would their qualities be? So in a lot of ways, like this is a good start on your superfan avatar. Like it's just from my experience, like some of the patterns that I've seen is that like these are some qualities that kind of come out, but it's going to be different. It's going to be different for everyone because everyone's music is different. Everyone is a different human being. So it's really valuable to like to keep your eyes and ears open and to kind of determine over time, like what do those people have in common? Those people who are really supporting you and really love your music. And then when you're creating a video, you think about your avatar and you actually come up with like a name, like let's say, Superfan Freddie, like let's say that your superfan is like, his name is Freddie. And, for me, this is interesting too, because this is something that I'm going through with like my business. In the same way, like we had this for Paradise Fears. We had like our super fans. Our avatar for Paradise Fears is probably someone who had struggled through like some sort of depression or some sort of life trauma. Maybe they're even like suicidal. And then they found our music and like it helped them through it, and it kind of gave them a second wind, and it helped them realize they weren't alone. And that was sort of like, that's who our music spoke to. Those were the super fans. Those are the people who are coming out to the shows. And like when we played like our song Sanctuary, everyone in the crowd screaming the words. It was because of that avatar. Lana says, so then will your avatar also be a specific gender? Yeah, I mean, well, I don't want to like offend anyone. Like sure, like they can be like transgender, but I think generally, generally your super fan is it's going to be one or the other. It can be both. So you might even have like one of both. You might have someone who's like your super fan Freddie, and then you might have like super fan Amy, but like actual names. You could even use the name of an actual super fan that you have so that you can imagine that person when you're creating those videos. But in general, I mean, for Paradise Fears, like I would say the majority of our fans were like girls between the age of 18 and 23 years old. So like I think naturally like you're going to find that you're going to find like gender wise it can be both. There's a lot of really cool dudes that were like at the concerts too, so it wasn't like just girls, but in general that was, if I was going to create an avatar, like it probably would be a female. Kelsey says, I named my superfan avatar after a friend I met recently who was jacked about new music and going to live concerts. Yes, beautiful. So another thing I want to mention is in terms of like speaking to one person versus speaking to everyone. There's this like really famous debate where Obama, I think, was speaking versus Romney. And when Romney answered a question, like he addressed the entire audience and he was like, answering it. And it just emotionally, this didn't really like connect. It didn't really like resonate. And because they were taking questions from the audience. And so like the audience member said something, then Romney addressed everyone. And then another person asked something to Obama, and he basically like looked at that one person and he spoke to them and he like answered their question. But it felt like it resonated throughout the room. Like there's this emotional, because it felt a lot more like the tone was like more connected. So that's one of the benefits of speaking to one person versus speaking to someone like speaking to the entire room, is that there's this like focus where it just like, as long as they're the right person, as long as you're speaking to your avatar, like it feels like they're speaking to you. Like it doesn't feel like you're speaking to everyone else. Like you're mentioning things. It feels like you're inside their head. Like you're just speaking to them specifically. And it's really powerful because most people don't speak to everyone like that. Another thing I wanted to mention is that in terms of like Facebook and YouTube and their algorithm and these like lookalike audiences that we've talked about a bit, and we're going to go into like a lot more detail when we're talking about your automated funnel. That's essentially what lookalike audiences do, is that like they look at your super fans as long as what they need help. They need you to be able to be like, hey, these are my super fans. These are the people who are like the most dedicated. They need that data, because then if they create the lookalike audience, they're essentially creating your avatar. They're saying, okay, what are the patterns? What do they all have in common? And so they create your lookalike audience, which is essentially people who match the same characteristics as the people that you gave them. So that's something that improves over time. But it's really important to be able to track people and kind of where they're at in terms of being like a super fan. And so that's why when we talk about your CRM in a little bit, we're going to talk about how do you segment those people and differentiate them. All right, so some questions that I think are really valuable to understand about your super fans. So I kind of have all these listed out for you. And you don't necessarily have to ask like all of these in one sitting, but if you can get to a point where you understand all of these questions about them, it's really going to help you with your marketing in terms of attracting the right people and just like having conversations with them. And they can be great questions to have face-to-face with your super fans, or, kind of like virtually if you're like having a messenger conversation. It's a great way to get to know someone else. So some of those questions are, and I want to show you, I have like 3 examples for you of something called an in-tune survey, which is essentially like, how do you apply what it is that we're talking about right now? So some of these questions are, what other artists do they listen to? So it's really valuable to know who are some of the other artists that your super fans are like really into, because that's a good sign to be like, okay, that's probably where they hang out. Like they probably are also listening to these artists. So maybe we should build a relationship with these artists, or at the very least, maybe we should target their fan base and put our music in front of their fans. How often do they go to concerts? This is really valuable because, again, like a super fan most likely is someone who's going to go out to a lot of concerts. It's like a big part of their life. They make it happen. If someone who's not a super fan, like sometimes you'll talk with someone and they'll be like, oh, like, yeah, like I really like music, but I don't really go to a lot of concerts because I just can't afford to go to a lot of concerts. And that means that like, it's probably not a question of whether they can afford to go to concerts. It's a question of them not prioritizing concerts that much. Like they're probably spending money on something else. Like they're probably going out to eat, or they're going to movies, or like they're spending it on something like, booze, like whatever it is, video games. So I don't think that's a real excuse. Like, oh, like, I really like music, but I don't really like go out to concerts. And it's okay if someone's not like go to live music all the time. There are other ways that they can be a super fan, support live music. Like sometimes someone who's like, on Patreon, for example, if they like are a patron to like 30 other artists, okay, that's someone who's like pretty qualified to be a super fan, worth, talking with someone like that. But in general, I think someone who is like a super fan is going to go out to the concerts. They're not going to come up with excuses for it. So this is a really good question. What was their all-time favorite concert experience and why? So this is just a great question to ask people in general, because it kind of gets them thinking about the excitement of like going to a show, and it reminds them of like what, like the value that they got out of it, how it made them feel, makes them happy, makes them excited. So questions like this are a really good way. There's like a good conversation starter or like an icebreaker, getting to know someone. So that's really smart. What's one of their favorite songs of all time? This is another question that just kind of like gets them in the emotional space of like the value that they get from music. And then following up with like, how does that song make them feel? Like, what does it do for them? Why is it their favorite song? That is a great connection builder, where they're going to probably tell you like, oh, well, my one of my best friends like passed away 5 years ago, and that was like our song that we listened to, and we would listen when we rode around in our car, and it's like why we became friends, because like we really got along to that song. So it just makes me feel like love, or like however they would describe it. That's really valuable to have, and that's valuable to be able to talk about. Like being able to share those kinds of stories in your marketing, where when you're talking about your own hero's journey, your own story, and you're like, people are like, so like, why are you making music? The reason I'm making music is because some of these stories that I hear from our fans, like I've had this experience with music where I'm a big fan, and now I want to do that for other people. Like that can be kind of a cool core story. So another question that's good to ask is, how do they discover new music? What's kind of like their day-to-day like routine? Like, how do they listen to music through their day-to-day life? How do they discover new music? Just kind of that's good research to figure out what platforms they're listening on. Where can you meet them? In their opinion, what makes a song great? So that's also smart in terms of like finding your content formula, kind of figuring out like, if they're like, man, like I love piano renditions of really popular songs, or I love lyrically when X, Y, or Z happens. Like it can be smart, because if you start seeing a lot of patterns between like the super fans, the people that are really like active and just all about it, and what songs they love, and like their idea of what makes a song great, then it's going to help you to provide more value for those people. How do they usually find out when a new show is coming nearby? What do they use to buy tickets? So that's just another question that's valuable to know, just kind of what's their process like for buying tickets. What's their favorite type of band merch to own? Really some more valuable research to know. So when you're creating your own value ladder and you're creating merchandise, you can focus on these kinds of people, the super fans, because those are the types of people who are going to buy all your merch most likely. They're probably about 100 times more likely to buy your merch. So you might as well create the ones that those people are most interested in. What kinds of what TV shows, books, and movies do they enjoy? This is mostly valuable just in terms of targeting. So like figuring out their demographics, kind of getting the idea of that avatar, like who are they? Asking this question is going to help you get an idea. And most likely what you're going to find is like probably pretty naturally, like a lot of the people you attract are going to be people that you also resonate with them, where like you're kind of like your own avatar, where it's like, especially if you target people specifically, where it's like you target people who are big fans of some of the same TV shows and books and movies, and like you can talk about it like on your social media. Like if I wanted to post something about Game of Thrones, like I bet if I posted a Game of Thrones, like a clever little thing about Game of Thrones, I guarantee that would be one of my biggest like engagements right now, because it's trending, it's kind of popular. It's got that content formula. It's got like the trending, like the viral, the familiar. Plus, if I made it a little bit unique, where I kind of added my own like voice or added like a joke or a twist on it, then that'd be good. Oh, actually, here's a good example of this. Oh God, I can't believe I'm about to show you guys this. So, first of all, Paradise Fears, we've been talking about, I think I mentioned this, that, you know, we're going to be doing like a few shows this summer, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be awesome. But we are just recently started talking about it and locking in some actual dates. And let's see if I can find it. Okay, so so this is like a stupid joke. I don't even think we're probably going to do anything with this, but so one thing that we grew up with was this like High School Musical scene. Like a lot of our fans are into High School Musical, and when we were in like middle school, we watched High School Musical. It's kind of like like a joke now. So we were like, what if like we named the tour like Paradise Fears on ice, like as like a joke, like we were gonna be like ice skating, like some sort of musical. And so, I mean, that's stupid. Like we're probably not going to actually do that, but like as a joke, it would probably be really funny if we posted like a joke where we're like, hey, like, you know, we're doing this Paradise Fears on Ice tour, and we're going to you know, be on ice skates and perform, and like publish this. I basically took this from a picture with the band and just like photoshopped it. And I guarantee you that if we posted this on our social media, like this would get like a ton of engagement, where like everyone would be like laughing and yeah, I know like when I sent this to the guys, like they just cracked up. We're like, we got to use that for like our tour pass. So that's an example of using some like pop culture, or like using some ideas like that to kind of work them into the conversation. Yeah. What are some of their favorite hobbies? Again, a lot of times this can reflect with you and like what you're passionate about, because your passion is probably going to like ooze out of you naturally when you talk about some of these things. And gosh, here's like a really good question. Like, okay, so I don't know how to like word this exactly, but you know, what is it that do they feel like weird about something, like that they're super like they're really passionate about something and they feel like almost like an outfit, like other people, yeah, do they have a guilty pleasure? What's their guilty pleasure? That is such a more direct way of asking that question, Kelsey. Thank you. Yeah. So guilty pleasures can be really like interesting thing to focus on, especially if you share the guilty pleasure with them, because part of what makes a community really strong is like if they all believe something, or if they're into something that like other people would consider weird, right? Like, because a lot of times there's this sense of non-fully expression. Again, that's a weird way of putting it. Like they're not fully expressing themselves, this part of themselves, because other people don't understand. Like other people don't fully get it. And so if you can kind of give them a place or a community where it's like, hey, you belong, and like you can celebrate that thing and like express it, that can be really powerful for like building that connection, building that network. I mean, a good example of this is like, for example, if you're like super into like anime or something, and like a lot of people don't quite, like they don't understand, like they're not super into anime. then that could be something that you incorporate like into your branding. Different from fetish, says James Murray. Yeah, no, I mean, it depends on what kind of route you're trying to go with your music. Could be about fetishes, I guess. I mean, 50 Shades of Grey, I think there's a reason that probably blew up. That's what I'm here for. Grace says, anime, that's like my crowd, even though I didn't ask for it. Interesting. That might be a hint. How many of these surveys do we conduct until there's a reliable enough sample size, would you say? You mentioned last week that people vote with their dollars. So do we value the answers from fans that actually purchase something for more than those that didn't? Yeah, that's a great question. So that's one thing that we're going to talk about here in terms of like your Intune survey and your CRM is like, how do you segment people? So that's where that's going to come into play, Aaron. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But yes, people like if you ask these questions to anybody, then you're probably going to get a lot of different types of answers. And what you're going to realize is that if you segment them into the people who are like hyper responsive, or into the people who are super fans versus non-super fans, you're probably going to find some differences between there are going to be patterns, but the people who are like super fans, there's probably going to be some of these things that are subtle that feel kind of different, but that make a difference for them. I have more than my fair share of guilty pleasures. Now I'm just thinking fetish, James. Thanks, man. Oh, man. All right. So, I mean, this has probably got to happen. Everyone, let's come onto the webcam and let's all start sharing our fetishes that we feel ashamed about. We'll save that for week 27. Yeah, week 27. That's when we're going to talk about fetishes. This is not where I expected this to go. All right. So let's talk about your guys' Intune survey. So I know with some of you we've been doing the one-on-one sessions for a little bit. You've heard about this idea. You've been doing some of these Intune surveys, and it's because of that. I actually have some examples for everyone else that we can kind of learn from each other from successful Intune surveys. So the point of an Intune survey is basically it's one of the most effective tools to move someone from being kind of like a casual listener to actually starting a conversation with them and building the relationship so that they become more of a fan and actually to like make sales. So I've got a few examples here of people who started these conversations and in the course of like a very short conversation moved someone from being like, completely cold traffic, never having heard of them before, to actually being like more of a dedicated fan and making a purchase. So the point of the Intune survey, start the conversation, get in tune with your fan base. Part of the power of this Intune survey as well is that you're asking questions and you're kind of getting dialed in. So I've probably used this analogy before and I'll probably use it again because it's really great. But essentially, like you want to be able to listen for what your super fans are like kind of putting out. Like everyone's emitting some sort of frequency. And I am going to put a link to all three examples for you guys. So everyone's like emitting some sort of frequency. And when we're like talking to each other, if you can listen, you can kind of hear what frequency they're emitting, then you can kind of dial into them. You can dial in your messaging, your questions, so you can get in sync, so you can get in tune. And so one way of understanding that is kind of like let's say that your super fans are playing like a C chord. And let's say that your normal fans are playing like a D chord. So it can be kind of hard if and this is a great example, if you're trying to be in like a bunch of different genres at once and you haven't really kind of clarified your brand and what sets you apart and stuck with got in with your niche, then it can kind of be like you're trying to play every I promise guys, it sounds good if you just listen to all of it. It's really important to be able to focus and you can harmonize. You don't have to just play one note, right? You don't have to just play one note. You can play a chord. So you can have different things as long as they're complementary. So the point is like you don't want to do a bunch of things that conflict with each other because it just feels weird. And so if you have these in-tune surveys, you're having these conversations, you're asking the right question, it helps you get in tune with your fan base where it's like you can actually listen. You can hear like oh, okay. Like they're playing a D chord. So maybe we came in, we were playing like a C, and they're playing this D chord. And when we're playing on our own, like it sounds good. We're like, all right, awesome. And then like they're playing. But then when you put them together, it's like I was trying to make that sound as bad as possible. So it's really about if like when you have the in-tune survey, if you can listen. To be able to listen so that you can kind of reflect and you can get in tune with your audience. It's one of the biggest benefits of the in-tune survey. In-tune is survey software. No, that's just our catchy terminology for using it. But that being said, fingers crossed. So we're in some pretty big talks with some major companies for musicians. One of them is Bands in Town. So Bands in Town is like one of, if not the biggest, kind of like live concert discovery platforms. Really, really awesome. They have millions and millions and millions of musicians on there and like way more fans. And I would love to kind of collaborate with them to build an app. Okay, I could go into the rabbit hole here if we talk about this, but we just had a discussion with them, and we were able to schedule a meeting with their CEO. So we're going to be meeting with them pretty soon, and they're going to help promote our conference that we're doing next month. And it's basically like a partnership that we're in talks with. So that'd be really awesome. And I would love to kind of have an app or something that kind of goes it goes beyond just the in-tune survey. Probably includes that as part of it. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I am like really excited about it. It's pretty big because Bands in Town is amazing. So one of the benefits is getting really in tune with your audience. So just like listening to what they're playing, being able to figure out like your offer so that it's something that they really want. And then it's a great opportunity to actually make your first sales. So like after you have that conversation, you have this opportunity to make an offer depending on kind of where they're at. And so I'm going to show you some examples of people who are actually making sales with their in-tune surveys. And what's exciting is just like going from completely cold to someone who buys merchandise on that first conversation is a really cool transition to be able to make. And so I want to show you some examples of how that in-tune survey works. Grace says, as an artist that jumps, mixes genres, styles a bit, can the imagery and lyrical content build continuity? Or do you think musical styles should stay consistent? That's a good question. I think it depends a little bit on, like we mentioned, if it's like complementary. Like, for example, there's this artist that my wife is really into. She's like kind of into this like not like super heavy metal, but like kind of like metal-ish, more like hardcore pop rock metal, like some screaming kind of stuff, which is funny because she's like totally not a hardcore person at all, but she's like, yeah. And so there's one artist that she followed that like, she was a big fan of their music. And then he went, one of them went off and like did like a separate project. And it was just like, it was like country and just was like completely like 180 and was trying to like promote it to all of the existing fans. And like, it was just like it was like the example, playing the two chords next to each other that just don't really resonate, where it's like, wait, like a lot of heavy metal fans, like some of them do like country, but like a lot of them, that's just like a frequency that when they hit together, like they clash, like the lifestyle, the communities, like it's just a little bit weird. So I would say like, Grace, you can incorporate multiple styles into your thing. Like that could be part of what makes you unique. Is like, we're like, this band meets this band, like meets this band, put into one. Like if they all had a baby, that can be a really like valuable starting point. But I would be careful not to confuse your fans, because I think I skipped over it kind of up here, but Yeah, like speaking to like a laser versus a light bulb, they can have like the same amount of energy, but a laser is like compressed and it can cut through metal. Like it's like ridiculously powerful. And a light bulb, it doesn't hurt you. It's not like a laser. So yeah, like the power of focus. I think over time, as you grow your fan base and as you like kind of have those roots in place, your tree has really connected into the soil. It has those big roots. Then you have more of a foundation to kind of like stretch and branch out and try some different things. As long as they branch off of your real roots, it's like you're not trying to just do something like completely new. Awesome. All right, so let's do some of these examples. All right, so this first one is an Intune survey from Sam Stuckey. Shout out to Sam. So his said, "Hey Tiffany, here's a song. Make sure you let me know what you think." So this was an example from his virtual tour hacking funnel. So that's one thing that we're going to talk about in a couple of weeks is one system for automating the process, so you can bring people, you can start these conversations. When you're first starting out, if you already have like a little bit of a warm audience, that I would recommend reaching out to them. We'll talk about some places you can find these potential super fans in a little bit. But how the conversation started was, "Hey Tiffany, here's a song. Make sure you let me know what you think." Here's a link to the song. Because I love it. Your voice is so soothing. Okay, so like first of all, her initial response is like she is pretty enthusiastic and all about it. 3 different hearts of different colors. Like let's get real, guys. So then he says, "Thank you so much, Tiffany. Would you mind if I ask for your advice on something?" This is a really valuable starting question to ask people because most people feel pretty flattered when people ask for their advice. And it also has some curiosity built into it where it's like, wait, like ask for advice. Like, what do you need my advice about? She said, "Go ahead." So he said, "Awesome. So the reason I'm reaching out is because I'm doing some research on my audience so I can create some better content and music. So I was wondering, what are some of your other favorite artists that you listen to?" So as you're going to see from the different examples that I show you, like this part here is flexible. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be one thing. Like you basically just have to come up with some sort of reason that feels good enough that like is giving you a reason to ask for their advice. So that can be a lot of different things. And you'll see some different examples here. But his was, I'm doing some research, want to create some better content and music. I was wondering, what are some of your other favorite artists you listen to? So she said, "I totally get that. I've been into Ray LaMontagne. I don't know, LaMontagne for a while now. I'm not sure if he falls under your same genre. Tane, okay. But his music is also smoothing." So Sam Stuckey says, "Yes, I feel like it's pretty similar, although more R&B-ish, in my opinion. It'd be sick to tour with him. Have you ever been to his live show?" All right, so this is a good example here of one. So when we kind of went back to this and we were thinking about like, who gets the most value from you and your music? That's one question that should always be on the top of mind is like, how can I provide more value? In order to be able to provide more value, we need to understand like, what do they find valuable? So we talked about one of the things that they find valuable is having relationships, being friends with a lot of like well-known artists. Like there's a certain like coolness to like, social status to, being friends with people like that. So this is subtle, but what he's implying here is basically like it'd be sick to tour with him. Like he's basically putting an image out of like, man, like if he like went on tour with Ray, like that would be sick. That would be awesome. So for a super fan, that kind of like triggers a little reflex where it's like, oh man, like that would be awesome. Like it gets them excited. They're like, wow, if I was like having a conversation with someone like that who like might tour with them. And it is like, it's a genuine statement. Like it would be sick to tour with him. And who knows, like I never would have thought that we could tour with All Time Low. Like when we first started, we had like no fan base. We didn't know what we were doing. We grew up in South Dakota. Then within a year, like we were touring with All Time Low. And I think one of the reasons is because we met a lot of All Time Low's fans and we really connected with them. And we kind of planted this seed like, man, like, someday we'd love to be like All Time Low, or we'd love to tour with All Time Low, which made us more valuable to those people and ended up becoming like a self-fulfilling prophecy because, with their help, we actually did end up touring with All Time Low like a year later. So yeah, I think kind of mentioning like, oh man, like I'd love to tour with them someday. Like that's a smart thing to throw in there. I'm not sadly always working, but it's on my need to do list. He's definitely more Airbnb-ish, but if you get to tour with him, I'll just have to take a sick day at work. Awesome. Have you been to many live shows in general? Yes, I have. I love going to live shows. So in terms of that question that we're like looking like if someone's a super fan or not, this is like ding, ding, ding. Like she's like, yes, I love going to live shows. She's giving some pretty good signals right now. Said, me too. What's your favorite one you've ever been to? And again, this is a great way just to like have a like to meet someone and have a conversation to connect with someone, because you're probably going to have a lot in common with these people if they're like fans of the same kind of music. So favorite concert you've ever been to? It's tied between Skillet and Chevelle. I said, oh, nice. I haven't heard of Chevelle, but I saw Skillet once at a Christian convention I was at. They're pretty solid. I said, yeah, I've seen them multiple times at Christian conventions, concerts. Chevelle is another Christian rock band. You should check them out. Yeah. Again, super fan material here. He said, for sure. Hey, so I've got a secret group where I share new releases and stuff. Is that something you'd be interested in? He says, yes. He says, awesome. Here's the link. So this kind of goes back to your value ladder. And we kind of talked about this idea of moving people up the value ladder. And so what he's essentially doing here is like he starts with that kind of intro, the new song. And one of the next levels here is a street team. If someone joins your street team or like your private group, whatever you want to call it, they're essentially kind of raising their hand and being like, I'm a little bit more of a super fan. I'm a little bit warmer than most people. It's a good like indicator of if someone is like leaning towards being a super fan or not. So that's a smart thing that he does is he kind of like makes that offer. Hey, dude, is that something you'd be interested in? Yes, here's the link. What I love too is that like, you know, you don't have to have like a ton of fans, especially for someone who is like the super fan material. That's a good qualifier for someone who's a super fan. For someone who's not, is someone who's like not a super fan. They're going to judge you more. Like they might be someone who's like a little bit more like anyone's going to like be more tuned in. Like if you're someone who's like super like well-known, like if you have like a big established fan base, then like, yeah, sure. They're going to like, you know, like pay attention probably more likely. But if you're someone who's an up and coming artist who doesn't have like a huge fan base yet, super fans are still going to be, if they see your potential and they think that you're going to grow, in some ways that's even more valuable than the other one, because it's like they get to say that they knew you before you blew up, before you got big. So they kind of got to work in at the ground floor. So in terms of like, again, thinking about like the value for them, what do they find valuable? That's one of those key things that a super fan does find valuable. It's kind of being in the ground, like having their foot in the ground floor. And so mentioning like, man, like you're amazing. I appreciate you so much. I can't wait till, you know, I'm touring around the world and I have millions of fans and I'm going to be like, I'm going to remember you and we're going to be buds. That kind of sentiment really creates a bond with like the right kind of fan, where now it's like they want you to become that way because they're like, wow, like that would be so cool if he does that. And it just like creates a lot of goodwill where they're like, oh man, it gives you gushy, good feelings. Yeah. So the reason I bring that up is because, you know, he mentions here, like click that and hit join group. I'm starting from the ground up. So you're one of my first 10 members. And she's like, dope. I'll be sure to give you love and tell my friends. Like, she's awesome. So he says, you're awesome. I'm having trouble hitting yes to your request on my phone, but I'll get to it when I get home tonight. Also, I've got a thank you gift for being so awesome. What's a good email for you? Just sounds like a plan. Here's my email. Sweet. So I have a starter pack merch bundle that usually costs $20, but I want to send it to you for free. Is that something you're interested in? Just totally. Okay, so this is an important thing. This is where like he kind of transitions from the connection, like in like building the relationship, to making an offer. So this is a pretty strong starter like offer, because that's kind of a big transition when someone moves from being like free to actually like becoming a customer. Usually like someone like that is at least 10 times more valuable in terms of like lifetime value, like your business. They're about 10 times more likely to spend money on you than someone who doesn't. So like that's a pretty delicate transition to make. So one really good example of like an offer that can make that initial transition is a free plus shipping offer. And that's essentially we talked a little bit about this last time, creating the starter pack. That's saying something like what Sam's going to say here. So I've got a starter pack merch bundle, usually costs $20, but I want to send it to you for free. Is that something you're interested in? Just totally. He said, okay, great. Just need to figure out the shipping. Do you live in the United States? Which is really important because if he's going to ship it overseas, then he just won't be able to do it. So yeah, but she says, yes, I live in Indiana. Unless like you could ship them overseas if they're willing to pay for like, $20 in shipping and handling or something. But if you ship the right thing, then you should be able to get your profit margin like pretty good. Like on $7 shipping and handling, you should be able to get like at least $3 and up like $5 of profit margin would be amazing if you just like ship them in an envelope. So she says, yes, I do. I live in Indiana. He said, awesome. The crossroads of America, also known for cornfields for miles. And I want you to pay special attention to how he puts this across, because this is really important how he makes this offer. It's especially as musicians, it can feel a little bit like scary or icky or like weird to kind of like to sell people. So I want you guys to really zero in on the idea that like when you sell something, when you make an offer, you should only be making the offer if what you feel like what you're giving them is more valuable than what they're giving you. Like, I really like to focus on like to give something out. Like I liked it to feel like it's worth at least double of what it costs. And that's going to help you when you're making like a sale to be like, to feel good about it. So it's not like you're trying to manipulate someone or like, take something away from them. It's just a way for you to provide more value and to kind of focus on like giving. And so the way that he came across here was really smart. Said, normally it costs $20 plus $7 shipping and handling, but because I really appreciate your conversation and your support, I want to send it to you for free. All I ask is that you help cover the shipping. Does that sound all right? Or does that work for you? She said, yeah, heck yeah. So the reason that I really point this out is because a lot of times here, like this question, someone will ask, like, I don't even know how to put it without seeing like an example, but a lot of times we'll kind of sabotage ourselves if we're not in tune, if we don't have that mindset, if we don't have the thermostat of like, man, like this is really valuable. Like you're getting something awesome here. Like I'm doing you a favor essentially. Then it might come across as like, hey, like, do you want, I don't know. It just comes across differently. Maybe what I can do is I can get like an example of a couple of conversations where like maybe it did come across a little bit weird, so we can juxtapose it with this. But this is a really great way to put it across. And so what I want to encourage you to do is like, once you have a good message that resonates, like you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like I would keep the messaging. So like now that Sam has this one, I probably wouldn't change this up very much. I would probably use something almost exactly like this for every time he makes the offer. But anyways, yeah, okay. So she said yes. I said, follow this link, send her a link to the free starter pack. And he said, let me know if it works, with a smiley face. So that's smart too. Just because like that kind of ties in, they're like, okay, it kind of gives them the next step where they're like, okay, like I could do this when I come back. So she says, thanks, your order's been received. She goes, it worked. I'm so excited. Sam goes, whoa, you're so cool. I'll send that to him as soon as I can. You're awesome, Tiffany. And then she goes, you're way cooler, but you're totally welcome. Feel free to keep in touch. I like friends. Friends are cool. LOL. So like Tiffany's awesome. She's definitely super fan material. So dope. It feels so special. Ship today. Yay. So excited. And like, check this out. Like that's pretty cool. Look what I came home to work to. All right. So what do you guys think? Like, is this making sense so far? And one thing is, I'm going to give you guys a link to all of these conversations so you can use your own kind of style. Aaron says, yep, I realize why I struggle with creating this private group. It's just I just don't know how I can provide value for them through that platform. Yeah, so I think in terms of providing value for them, you could ask them. So let me see if I can get in focus here. Boom. So one thing we're going to talk about in a little bit is doing your hyper in tune survey and like getting like really clear on your value ladder and what they're finding most valuable. So what I would do is when you're having some of these in tune surveys is I would ask them, I'd be like, hey, like we're thinking about creating this like street team thing. We just want to make sure that it's like cool and that it's like providing value to you. So I was wondering if I could get your feedback on it. And then you can kind of share. You can say, okay, so we're thinking about doing live streams every so often, just like connect, play some music. We're going to have like giveaways or like whatever it is. But from my experience, like street teams can be super valuable. Like they're a great way to connect with people and people really love them. Aaron says, do you do live streams, check-ins for that Facebook group? How do you separate that from a Patreon campaign if you go that route later? So one thing I'm kind of, because this is my first time doing a group program like this, I'm sort of figuring out how much should I like reply to questions as I'm going through the content versus like I don't want to get like too like off track, but I do want to respond to this because a lot of these questions are great. Like, is it valuable for you guys if I keep like breaking up and answering questions like this throughout, or should I like wait till the end? What's best for you? It might be good. I think wait till the end. Yeah, I think you're right. Just because some of the questions that are coming up are things that I'm actually like answering a little bit later. But that's a super good question, Aaron. I definitely want to answer that. Casey's picking up her brother from school. Okay, see you later, Casey. James says, "What if people order from overseas?" Yeah, so let's go on. Let's keep track of those questions, and at the end of the training, I definitely want to answer those because there's some really good questions. All right, so let's go through the other Intune surveys because I want to show you like the patterns of like what do they have in common, and also how did they frame things differently. All right, so Nikita, can I ask for your advice on something? Sure thing. The reason I'm reaching out is because we're super close to releasing a new single. Before we release it, we want to make sure it sounds as awesome as possible. So I was wondering if I send you a clip before we officially release it, do you promise not to share it with anyone? Yeah, so this is another example of like a good intro message that they can send out to people. Said, ooh, exciting. I'm all for your success, 100%. And he just went ahead and he just got like the email right away to send it over. So that's pretty cool. Just sent it, make sure to let me know what you think. By the way, do you ever go to concerts? I will, and I literally love concerts. They're the best. Ding, ding, ding. That's awesome. What's your favorite concert you've ever seen? Between the Lumineers and Panic at the Disco. Oh man, both killer bands. I would love to tour with them someday. Another good example of a line like that. I genuinely love the clip that you sent. It's one of those songs from what I can tell so far that catches on instantly. Thanks so much. So if you enjoyed it, I'll let you know when the full song is released. By the way, we have a private group where we do free giveaways and sneak peeks of new songs. Is that something you'd be interested in? So she says, please do. And I really hope you do get to tour with them someday. Better yet, sell out arenas yourself. Yes, it is. Like, it's awesome to have conversations with people like this because they just are so supportive and like, they just want you to succeed. And they give you a lot of faith in yourself and in your music. So good on you, Nikita. Awesome. You're the best. Here's a link. Can you click below to join the group? Thanks so much. You're welcome. You're awesome. I want to give you a special gift as a thank you for supporting our music. We have a starter pack merch bundle. Usually costs $20, so I'll send it to you for free. Is that something you're interested in? Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Okay, I just need to figure out the shipping. Do you live in the United States? Yep, I do. So, okay, awesome. Normally it's $20 plus $7 shipping and handling, but I'll send it to you for free if you can just cover the shipping. Does that work for you? I think I actually prefer the other one a little bit more, just in terms of like the wording. I liked how that was brought up. Normally it's 20 plus 7 for shipping and handling, but because I really appreciate your conversation, your support. But again, like it doesn't have to be one way or the other. Like you can kind of fine tune your own message here. And she says, but I'm cool with that. Sweet. Okay, I also need a link for it when I get a chance. Cool. So that's another example of an Intune survey going from someone who's completely new, completely cold, but you can tell like throughout this conversation that she is a quote unquote a super fan. Like she's someone who has a lot of those tall tale signs that she is a super fan. So, okay. That's example number 2. So let's do example number 3. And I like this one. This one's kind of like a curveball because it's like, This guy started out being like very like on the edge, and you'll see why. Said, "Hi, Bastion. Here's a song. Make sure I let me know what you think." So I think it sounded good. I think it was the same song as yesterday. Oh snap! Well, did you hear our new song that hasn't been released yet? Said, no, I was waiting for it though. What was your email? I'll try and resend it. He has like a little bit of resistance up front. He says, why don't you just send it to me on Messenger? I don't know, man. You guys have great music, but I'm not trying to get scammed. So this is like not common at all. Like it's weird that someone would be afraid of getting scammed by like email address. I said, no worries. If you don't feel comfortable giving out your email, it's all good. You can hear it May 24th when it comes out. So then he gives his email. And then we scammed him. Signed him up for a bunch of newsletters that he didn't want. Oh, sweet. Something, my dude. Let me know what you think. Okay, thanks, guys. But then the way when he responds to it, dude, that's a great song. It gave me chills. It's relatable, has emotions behind it. I love your voice. I love just singing when I'm gonna sing in the shower. Sing it, and I'm gonna sing it in the shower, no doubt. The way it kicked in with the drums was amazing at the beginning, as well as the beat tells the story perfectly. You guys are going to do great. Keep up the good work. So like, what a 180, right? Like that is the power of music right there. If you need any more feedback, just let me know. I just went through some shit with a girl that I really care about. Now she's in jail, but I'm still here for her. She's very abusive emotionally. I can relate to this song. I'm sure that many more will too when it's released. I love it. Yeah, so I mean that probably explains why this guy was giving off some weird signals at first. Sounds like he's going through some stuff with his girl. Dude, thanks so much. That means the world that you could connect with it. Thanks for really listening and focusing on it. It's really a real life song about real life shit. Dang, man. Sorry you had to experience that as well. It's okay. It's the sort of stuff that just makes us stronger and realize who we really love. You're very welcome. I could tell that you put it together from your heart. That's why it's so relatable. That's the problem with most music these days. Their heart's not in it. I'm going to get in with y'all's music and show my brothers and family. They love music too. Great, man. Thanks so much for the encouragement. We just keep on writing, hoping people connect with it, and you did. Awesome, man. Hey, also, bro, would you also be interested in a free merch starter pack bundle? Yeah, I would love that. All I have to do is pay for shipping, huh? It's really exciting. So he's just like, he's all about it right off the bat, I guess. Awesome, man. And yes, if you don't mind, we would love to give you some gear because you're awesome and you like our music. Thanks, guys. I would love to give you guys some feedback anytime. Glad someone's making good music out here. It's just like this connection. I love it. Thanks, man. Hope you guys never get discouraged because you are all great together. You have great enthusiasm. I have a lot of faith in you guys already. You sure are making some touching music. Thanks so much, man. You're appreciated. Makes it all worth it. Yeah. So there are 3 examples of some Intune surveys. There's a little bit of curveball in the last one, but it was a happy ending. So I do want to take a look at the comments now and see if you guys have any questions about that whole section in general. Wow, just goes to show that you can win over even the most skeptical. Yeah, right? That's the power. It's the power of music. What if people order from overseas? So, James, I would say it's probably pretty unlikely that someone's going to order from overseas just like randomly. With your campaign, with your virtual tour hacking campaign, you can literally target people specifically from the United States, so you don't have to worry about people overseas. But if you're talking with someone and they want to order it and they live overseas, then I would just like have them PayPal you the shipping for it and just like do it manually. But it's so rare that I wouldn't even worry about it too much until that situation actually happens. All right. So any other questions about like the Intune survey that we just read through? I guess one thing that I want to talk about is like, how do you like, where should you start having some of these conversations? Because one of the action steps is that if you haven't already started doing this, is to actually start doing some of these Intune surveys with your fans. And so if we haven't been working together, you're completely new, like Grace, then you might be wondering like where do I start these conversations? How do I how do I have like the right people to have these conversations with? So so to start out with, I would say probably the lowest hanging fruit. To be honest, like this is something we're gonna go really deep into throughout the rest of the program. This is essentially what tour hacking and the music video blueprint is like all about, is about driving traffic. And this whole week is just all about how do you find the right people and how do you drive traffic. But to start out with, what I would recommend is doing it really organically, like hyper organic. So maybe with your existing warm fans. Like, so if you've started building any sort of fan base, then that's a great place to start. Just like reaching out to them, being hey, Melanie, can I ask for advice on something? It's just a really great question to reach out, and then you can go from there. Another place you can do it pretty organically is just like followers of similar artists. So like on Instagram or Facebook, if you basically go to their profiles and you just look at some of their posts, like you're probably going to see some comments from people who, give off some of those indicators that they like are super fans, like people who on their profiles, they're like listening to a lot of music, some of the comments that they have. So what I would do is I would maybe go and like follow maybe like let's say you want to do 10 of these, maybe you go follow 20, like 25 people. And if they follow you back, then you can shoot them a message. You can be like, hey, Marcus, thanks for the follow. Can I ask for your advice on something? Then they can respond and they'll be like, yeah, sure. What's up? Be like, awesome. So, basically the reason I'm reaching out is because I saw that you're a fan of Ed Sheeran. I love Ed Sheeran. He's really inspired a lot of my music, and someday I'd like to tour with him. So I was wondering, if I share a clip of my music, like a new song that hasn't come out yet, do you promise not to like share it anywhere else? Like not to leak it? Like, will you keep it? And they'll be like, yeah, sure. So that could be one example. You can really use like any of these 3 different examples of reaching out to people. And so I would probably go with like one of those 2 places. You could also say like events, Facebook events for shows. So you could go to events for like shows that are on Facebook and basically connect with the people who are going to the shows, and the same kind of thing where it's like, hey, thanks for the ad. The reason I'm reaching out is because, like, can I ask for your advice on something? Really, it's all about just kind of getting dialed in on like who are those people that are probably most likely to be some of your super fans. Where do they hang out? And just like setting out that initial reach out message for the Intune survey. Cool. Makes sense? Landon said, I had a few people who just completely stopped talking to me after I asked for the email. Some of those people were longtime friends and fans. It's like they immediately thought I was getting hacked. I mean, I got way more positive responses, but I'm just saying it does happen. What do you do in those situations? Yeah, Landon. So sorry that happened. That's no fun. And that's super strange that they what I would say is most likely it was something to do with the approach. There's sort of a nuanced way. So like when you look at some of these, they'd already been having a conversation. Like there's no way that he was just like some random like hacked person. I mean, it's not like, I don't know. It's like, what's someone going to do with your email address? It's like one thing if you're giving out confidential, like payment info or something. But where did he even ask for it? Here he goes. Yeah, so it was like after he started the conversation, and he had been talking for a little bit, then he was like, hey, and he used this as a way to say like, I've got a special thank you gift for being so awesome. What's a good email for you? You wouldn't just want to start with this where it's like you start the conversation and it's like, there's like, hey, like you're awesome. I want to send you a special thank you gift. What's a good email for you? Then they're gonna be like, it just doesn't add up. They're like, wait, why is he asking for my email address? But as it was sort of like a thank you, like they built this conversation and they'd done this. She was doing all these things. She was helping him out. And then he's like, hey, like, thank you so much. I appreciate your help. I want to send you a new song. Like, what's your best email? Like giving them a reason. So for the email, I think it's gonna help quite a bit. But Landon, I would have to look specifically at your conversation, which I think I could. If you were okay, if you're okay with me going to your inbox and like opening it up and looking at the conversation, then we could give you some direct feedback right now. What do you think, Landon? Sure. I guess it's probably gonna be MC Bygone. Seems like people are really hating the song though. Is there a specific one here that you want me to take a look at, Landon? Oh, it's on your personal. Okay. Hey, so I love it and you're cute. Wow. So it seems to me like you're getting some really good response, man. So I would take a look at like the if you want to send me a screenshot or something, maybe I can just reply to you personally, or maybe I can share it in the group or something. Because most likely, unless it's someone who's just going through like a hard time or like a weird, there's probably something in the way that came across that we could address and kind of figure it out. Um, and it might have been nothing that you did. Honestly, like it might have not been your fault at all. Like maybe there's just something like maybe they've gotten scammed recently or something, which is weird. But from my experience, at least, like when we do it the right way, people aren't weird at all about like giving their email address out. As long as it's not like a random, there's like as long as there's a reason behind getting their email address so you can send it out. Like it never want it to feel like it's like you're just getting the email for the sake of getting the email. Like it should feel like hey, I want to send you something. Um, yeah. Yeah, it was only a couple of people. It was really weird because they were friends. Okay. Yeah, man. It might be just like maybe they just got like busy. Like maybe it was just like some friends who they weren't like super fan like material, or they just like um but I hope I'd if I need to go in and like and bring back together you guys as friends, if I need to like revitalize that friendship bond, I will go in there and I will apologize them from the roots of my soul so that so you can continue that friendship. um all right, so let's get back here. All right. So one other thing that I want to mention here is your hyper Intune survey. So these are really, really exciting. So what I would recommend is after you start getting a good amount of people that you're having these conversations with, for the people who are uh, clearly like super fans, and the people like I think one way is like if they get your starter pack, they're probably like leaning towards that being like a super fan. So what I would probably do is for someone who seemed like they give off all the signals where they're like, okay, this is someone who clearly is really big into music and would be worth having a deeper conversation with. Then at the end of the conversation, I would probably say something along the lines of like so this is actually during the conversation. But maybe I can break that down for you too. So like scheduling the conversation. All right. So basically the idea is like, for the right people who are like really dedicated fans, and you're like, man, this is the one I should build a relationship with. I would recommend being like, at the end of the conversation, being like, hey, like, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. You're awesome. I really appreciate you. Um, I might want to follow up with a few people personally, like on the phone, just so I can better understand like your situation, or so I can dive deeper into some of these questions that I asked you. Um, would you be open to hopping on a Skype call if we find a time that works for both of us? And again, like this kind of message for the right person, the person who just got your starter pack, or the person who's like, clearly like a super fan, they're going to jump at this. They're going to be like, wow, that's really cool. Like, cause it kind of gives them a chance. The reason that they're having a conversation with you is because they think you're really cool and they want to get to know you better. And so you being like, hey, I want to get to know you better. Like they're probably feeling kind of the same way. And they're like, wow, like awesome. Yes, I totally want to do that. So then that conversation gives you a really awesome opportunity to go into more detail about like some of these other questions that maybe you didn't have the chance to ask them on the messenger conversation, but also to show them your value ladder, get some really valuable feedback on that, and maybe even make like a high ticket sale. So here's kind of how I would structure that conversation with them. I would probably get on the call, and you could do these over like Skype, or you could do them over like Zoom. Zoom is what we're using right now. I really like Zoom because they make it easy to record each call. But Skype is probably a little bit more like common. Like people probably would recognize it a little bit more. So if you get on one of those calls, then basically you can be like, hey, thank you so much for getting on this call. You're awesome. So like, where are you from? Like, so if you haven't like connected with them yet, that's kind of a good question, just to like get to know where I'm from, and like, oh, like cool, like I have some family there, or basically that's usually a little bit of an easy like T-ball question to ask to start out with. So then you want to give them like the reason. Give the reason for the call, which is really just kind of like overview kind of thing, where it's like, so like the reason like that I wanted to get on this call is because we've got some new exciting things that we've been working on, and we wanted to get some feedback. And from our conversation, I could just tell you were awesome, and you're a really big music fan, so we thought it would be valuable to talk with you. So if you're ready, like let's jump right into it. And they're like, yeah, like let's do it. Okay, cool. So then I would use it as an opportunity to start out by asking some questions. Like, you could even you could go off of what they said during the conversation. You might be like, so like you mentioned that you're a really big fan of All Time Low. So I was just wondering, like, when did you start listening to All Time Low? Like, how long have you been a fan for? What's your favorite All Time Low song? And why? Like, why is that one of your favorite songs? Like, how does that song make you feel? What does it do for you? Maybe asking, like, could you tell me a little bit more about that concert experience that you told me about, that you said, like, why is that, why was that your favorite one? Like, how did, like, what kind of made that stand out? And, essentially, like, what you really want to do with the call is kind of get them remembering their most heightened states of like their emotional connection and like the value that they got out of the music. Like, you really want them to feel the value and to understand it, to be like, yeah, like, man, like I know how much music has really changed my life, or how much my favorite bands have. So asking any sort of questions that kind of uncover that, like, like how does the music make them feel? What does it do for them? It's really smart. And what I would say is a really smart thing to do on these calls is to actually open up your value ladder and take a look and be like, hey, so here's some things that we're thinking about creating that we'd like to offer for our fans. And before we make them, we just want to make sure that they're just like awesome, and that there's something that you'd actually be interested in. So I was wondering if I can kind of get your take on some of these different like offers that we're creating right now. Be like, oh yeah, sure. Okay, awesome. So here's kind of what we're working with. We've got this like starter pack bundle. Usually it's $25 plus $7 for shipping. And you can kind of walk them through maybe your designs, or walk them through the different things that you're thinking about offering, and basically like get their feedback. Be like, what do you think of that? Like, do you like that? Or what's your favorite part? If it's the right person, they're probably going to get really excited, and they'd be like, wow, like I love that. That's a really cool idea. Iris Loon, for example, I remember like looking at some of the designs that you got from your merch packs that just kind of came in. So these are the kind of things that would be really cool to like screen share and be like, so this is what we have for like our starter pack we're really excited about. And they're probably going to be like, whoa, like that's awesome. Like I kind of want one of those. Um, and so you could kind of show them that. You could brainstorm. You could like a good framework for those conversations is being like, hey, here's what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? So like giving them something like, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? Um, and showing them like a few of the different offers that you have, like so the VIP merch bundle. And as you're going through this, you're probably going to start to see some patterns where like your super fans, the people who are getting on the calls are like, man, I love this specific thing. Like every time you talk about it, they're going to be like, whoa, that's really cool. Like I really like that. That's my favorite thing. And you could even ask them like, what's your favorite part of this, or like which one's your favorite package, or just getting really clear on what is it that kind of resonates with them and sticks out. It's gonna be really valuable. And you could talk about like your inner circle. For those of you, so like Grace, I know you're completely new and you're probably like, wait, like inner circle, like what's this whole thing? So we're gonna dive into this on our next call when we do the offer and avatar stuff. But yeah, so just getting the feedback from your fans is really valuable because one, it helps you get more in tune with them. It helps you kind of figure out what do they really like. And two, it helps them to kind of take some ownership over it. So like they get to kind of share what they really want. And so they feel more connected with it and they feel like they kind of helped create it, which makes them a lot more likely to want to get it. And I would go kind of all the way through this. And you could include this if you want, but I'm assuming that you're probably not going to include a cruise ship right off the bat. Maybe you could. That'd be a cool thing to add. So then what I would do at the end, and I think that this is really smart, is I think what you could do is you could say, hey, just want to say again, like, thank you so much for taking the time to kind of give me some feedback on this. You gave me some really amazing ideas. Like this idea you gave me for the starter pack bundle is gold. Like I totally want to do that. So as a thank you for like taking the time to hop on this call and do this for me, I wanted to give you 50% off anything that I just showed you. So like anything on my value ladder, I want to give you a one-time 50% off discount. And so then for them, except for like the free starter pack bundle, because that's free anyways. But if you want to choose that, then I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you for free. You just pay for the shipping and handling. And so that way they essentially like can choose themselves. They can decide, oh wow, like, I really want this thing. And I think for the right person, it could be a really great opportunity to make some of these higher end sales, because if you have something that's available for $5,000, then essentially they could either use their 50% off to get, I don't know, like $20 off of a merch bundle, or if they are the type of person who's qualified and who wants to get one of these, then it's like, or I could save $2,500 off of this, like this high end experience. So for the right person, I think it's a great opportunity to make a sale for like a high ticket offer. And how cool would that be if you had like, 10 of these calls and you booked one or two people for like a $2,000 offer? That's that's pretty awesome. So yeah, that's one thing that I would definitely experiment with, is use it as a way, like your main focus is just to be getting feedback, building the connection with people. But it's also a really good opportunity to make an offer at the end for the 50% off. All right. So any questions about that whole segment so far? What do you guys think? Leva says, I'm starting to attract some Superman type of people who love my music, but spout some serious political hate on their pages. I know better than to mix politics with music, but I'm not really sure how to handle this. I don't know. I mean, that being said, I'm not a big fan of people who are like super political and just like in hatred of any form. Like I think hatred of any form is hate begets hate. But that being said, I don't think there's necessarily something wrong about having like a voice that aligns with certain political issues. If that's a part of your brand. I mean, for us, we did a cover of a song called Same Love. And it was kind of when gay marriage was like a huge issue that was on the forefront. And that was our voice. And that was a good example of the viral formula. It was like connecting with something that's relevant, but also kind of adding our own perspective to it. And that was huge. And like, we really won over a lot of fans with that. And sure, there's some people who probably were like, gay people shouldn't get married. Dark. They probably talk just like that too. But I'm probably offending some people, like everyone in here is just like super against gay marriage. No, I think we're on the winning side of that. But yeah, I think politically, like there's a difference between like having a political voice and speaking for like social causes and like spewing hatred. So if there's people like that, Levi, then I would probably avoid them. You don't have to sacrifice, like there are going to be the right people who are super into the music and all about it, and they don't like have a bunch of hatred. And if you bring people like that like into your life, then they're probably going to reflect some of that on you. So James, you shouldn't have to friend them to message them if you're messaging from your page. Yeah, so James, what I would recommend in terms of tips to friend people before you PM them, because in order to PM them, like they probably aren't going to see your message unless you are friends. So I would probably reach out to them in comments and say something like, hey, thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing my video. I want to send you a free gift. I'm going to shoot you a friend request and send you a message. Like if you say something like that, then it kind of gives them more of a reason maybe to add you as a friend. And otherwise, like I think a lot of people, if they recognize you from like your song, then they'll probably be like, wow, that's kind of cool. Like this guy, I just listened to his music and I just like commented that I really liked it. And now, add me as a friend. Right. All right, cool. So let's keep moving on. CRM. Okay, so here's some fun, semi-geeky stuff we're gonna talk about. So, and this is super valuable in terms of keeping track of the people that you're connecting with, so that you can follow up with them later. So here are the things that I would recommend keeping track of when you're doing these Intune surveys initially. And another thing I want to stress is that like this whole process I'm teaching right now with the Intune survey is very like interactive and organic and like face-to-face, like very personal. It's not the most scalable thing. Like at a certain point, when you get to like Riley Keegan's level and you're getting like 12 cents a message, then it's like you need to start to automate things more. You can't just be doing everything yourself. So really this is about kind of creating that initial spark for your fire, and then it kind of lights up and it gets a lot easier to add other like sources of traffic. So I do want to kind of encourage you that this is like a temporary phase, but it's really important to get really dialed in and in tune with your fans, so that when you do start to automate it, you're not just like guessing, like you're actually automating something that works. So in terms of your CRM, so CRM stands for Customer Relationship Manager. It's basically like how you keep track of the people that you're having these relationships with your super fans. So the specific things that I would keep track of are their name, their email, the city and state that they're from. And I would also keep track of what you say is like their fan level. And this is the first initial, like to kind of simplify things for you. Like this is how I would probably break them down to start out with. A bronze level fan is maybe someone who is like, you got their email address, but they're not someone who necessarily like was super into it or like was like super dedicated. It's someone who's like, maybe doesn't go to a ton of live shows, but they were like, yeah, they liked the song and they had a little bit of a conversation. Then I'd probably say they're like silver, or the bronze. I mean, silver is like someone I would consider them on your value ladder, kind of being on this like little bit of a lower end, where it's like maybe they joined your street team. Maybe they even get like a starter pack bundle. That's a pretty good indicator that they're like a silver fan. Gold, I would say gold is like if they've moved on from here to being like probably somewhere in this kind of range right here, where it's like they've bought like a merch package, VIP merch package. Maybe they've even joined your inner circle. Like they're like really valuable. Like gold is like really solid. And platinum is when we're talking like high ticket. Like we're talking like people who are getting private concerts, people who are in this range. Then I would consider them platinum. And so what you can basically do is like, as you have these conversations with people, I would probably say bronze. Like if you're getting emails from people, then I would say like, okay, bronze. Silver is like, I would say if they get the starter pack, I would probably list them as like silver. And then I probably wouldn't schedule a call with someone unless they were at least like silver or gold-ish material. Ideally, like the people you schedule the calls with, ideally it's people who you can see like potentially being like platinum. Like it's people who they are like super dedicated, super fans. But as time goes on, what you can do is, we mentioned with the Facebook and Instagram algorithm, we can create a lookalike audience based on the different level that people are at. So like you're going to start out with a lot more bronze and silver. And so you'll only be able to create a lookalike audience of these people. But as you get enough people who've gotten your starter pack and they kind of upgrade to the next level, then you're going to be able to create like a lookalike audience of those people. And that's super valuable because they're going to be a lot more like, they're going to be a lot warmer. They're going to be a lot more in tune. And as time goes on and you do get more data and you get a group of people who are becoming like your platinum fans, then that becomes even better because now Facebook knows, exactly who are the most valuable fans versus like the ones. And I want to make a point too that like your value or like your fans' sense of value doesn't come from their like how much they're willing to spend money on you. Like money isn't ultimately like a real form of like self-worth. But in terms of your business, in terms of like people that you should spend like focus on that are going to help you to sustain your music and support you and your vision and just be like all about you, they're really, really valuable. And so it's really important to like connect with people like that and to prioritize them. Because there's going to be a lot of people that you could try to win over. Like you could there's probably a level below this that's like rock, which is just not even a metal. It's just like stone. You could spend a lot of time trying to win over all the stones. Like you could literally spend, it was what a lot of people do. Like we seek validation from all of the stones. We're trying to convince people who aren't already like predisposed to being a big fan, like to become super fans. And it's a lot more challenging to convert someone who's a stone to like platinum, like over time. Like you can do it, but it's a lot more challenging to do that if they're like a stone everywhere than if you find someone who's like a gold or a platinum and they're just like hanging around following other bands. Then if you can connect with them and maybe they start out as bronze for you, but you know that they have the potential where they're the type of person who's like all about it. Those are the type of people that we really want to like tap into. Does that make sense? Oh yeah. All right. So the last thing that I want to mention for the training today is the platforms you can use to start out with for creating your CRM. So like, how do you actually keep track of these different segments? So to start out with, probably the simplest way is and it's free, is using a Google Sheets. So basically you can just create a spreadsheet and you might have it as like name, email, city, state, fan level, Bob Barker. I mean, you might even do something like, you might have like first name, last name. That's actually probably what I would do if I was you. Like you can do it with just one name, but then in your email provider, it's kind of nice if you can send out emails. You can say, hey, first name, and then it will just say, hey, Bob. So you don't have to be like, hey, Bob Barker. You could track gender if you want to. I mean, that could be kind of useful for your own demographics. I haven't ever like found that as like super necessary. I feel like it's in general, it's pretty easy to tell like you like how like which of your fans like you're getting more of, like more guys or girls. But if you want to, totally can track. Honestly, you can track anything. Like if there's something that you think would be valuable that you'd like to track, then I would definitely put it in here. So maybe you say, oops. When I try to drag it, it just goes really far. Gender. Bob Barker is me at gmail.com. City, Bobsville, Florida. Gender, male, fan level, platinum. So what I would do is like when you're first starting out, I would probably just keep track of them in this because this is free. You're going to be doing a lot of it like face to face. So it's not going to take up that much time to be able to do this. As time goes on, we're going to transition to using a platform like MailChimp or ActiveCampaign is actually the one that I would probably recommend getting started with. There's a lot of different ones you can use. And ultimately, like as long as you have one, you kind of learn how to use it, then it'll help you. But in terms of like deliverability and in terms of like the user interface, the one that I've seen that I would recommend starting out with would be ActiveCampaign. James signed up through ActiveCampaign. Awesome, dude. So yeah, so I would say there's going to be different training for each platform that you end up using, and most of them are going to have really kind of well constructed onboarding sequences. So when you sign up, it's going to be like, okay, like you go through this process. So it's going to kind of walk you through that. So to start out with, I would recommend just signing up for an account. And later on, when we're talking about like automating this process and we're talking about building a fan funnel, then we're going to be using something like this that essentially lets you send out messages without doing it like one-on-one to be able to send out like to groups of people. So for example, that's what I'm using right now for this program. And there was a good example of this, because sometimes it can be funny. Like I did this intentionally, but I sent out an email to the group that said something along the lines of, hey, by the way, just booked us our first Radioactive Robots tour. I can only afford to pay $2 million a show. Like, do you accept PayPal? So you probably remember that email because it's either like you saw it and you were like, oh yeah, I remember that from week 2. That was funny. Or you saw it and you were like, what the heck is he talking about? like radioactive robots. So that's an example of the platform that I use. Like I'm able to send out these follow-up emails and it feels personal because I can use your first name and I can say, hey, James, I got the new Radioactive tour. So it's really cool to be able to personalize things like that. But it really kind of comes into play when we start creating more funnels and more systems for taking the process of building the relationship and making it more automatic. We are radioactive robots from the distant planet of Mars. Yeah, so it is, I know that it kind of feels like a joke, but I did just book that tour for next year, and it's going to be about like a 11-month tour. They actually want us to be the first band that plays on Mars. So, if everyone could just like be investing maybe 5 to 10 hours of your time a day, gotta accept PayPal. Yeah, that's the thing too. We pay explicitly in PayPal. I'm really sorry that I can only afford to pay you $2 million a show, but I hope that you can find it in your heart to play these Radioactive Robots tour. And yeah, I mean, I'm thinking that we probably need at least 5 or 6 cowbells. So Landon, if you want to take cowbell, James, you can take cowbell. Kelsey, if you could do like backup singer / cowbell / like dancer, that would be cool. And we all got to go buy. We all got to go buy robot outfits. And yeah, so I mean that's the big thing. We need the outfits. We all get cowbells. Aaron's got the baritone cowbell. I'll do the soprano. He also makes the costumes. This is beautiful, guys. This is a multi-million-dollar band in the making. Nate is all, dude. Nate, what's up, man? I didn't even know you were in the crowd right now. All right, well, we have got our official cowbeller. Let's welcome Nate. By the way, Nate's a new recruit. Welcome to the program. I'm excited to have you here, especially because you can cowbell like nobody's business. Yes, I love this. All right, so let's do some action steps for week number 3. So the action steps are 1, to create your CRM. So basically, whether you're going to use like Google Sheets or use ActiveCampaign, that's step number 1. Step number 2 is to do an Intune survey on at least 10 fans. So I know that some of you are already like pretty advanced. You've already been doing this for a little bit, so you've got some of these going. So based on our lesson today, I would say do 10 more of them, and do them with like with one of those 3 skips. Like you can use your own conversation, but the goal is basically to build these relationships, to identify the silver fans, like versus like the bronze, the silver, the gold, and to schedule 5 of these hyper Intune surveys. So this is a little bit of a bonus. I know this is kind of a big ask to like knock out 5 of these in a week, but if you can even do like 1, yeah, we'll say the bonus is to do at least 1 hyper Intune survey. So you can do that over like a Skype or a Zoom call, and basically, gosh, wouldn't that be cool if you just got on the call with like the perfect person and they're like, man, that sounds awesome. Like I really want to get one of these private house concerts. You can make a cool couple $1,000s. Kelsey says, what was the app that you used to record your screen? I use an app called Loom. It's called Use Loom. It's free. It's pretty fantastic because you can record your screen, and then afterwards it like puts it up to a link. So all you need to do is send the link to someone and they can watch the screen replay. Levi says, question, the actual mind node that you're using is not available to us, correct? Actually, it is available to you. Go to Club Portal. So you should have gotten an email, Levi, that has a link for the membership portal. And let me just double check here. Someone was mentioning that week 2 mind map they're having some trouble with. Aha. Yeah, so you're right. So that's not working right now. So I'll get that one set up for you. But basically, if you go to this website, Levi, then you can see all the replays. You can see the fast action guides. You can see the Q&A sessions. And there should be the mind map here in the bottom right, but it looks like there's just an error with that one. Let me see if week 1 is working. Yep, so we got week 1 here. That's working correctly. And it's got the links in here too, so you can like click on there. It goes to it, which is pretty cool. But apologies for the week 2 one. I wonder if it's available anywhere else in here. No, it didn't work on either of them. Weird. So what I'll do is I'll take the replay for today and I'll edit that. I'll get that up on the website for you. And so you'll have the mind map. You also get the mind map for week 2 if you wanted that. And yeah, the three action steps we had were to create the CRM, do the Intune survey. Fingers crossed that you can actually make your first sale. If you have a starter pack, then you can actually start making some sales. And then to do at least one of those hyper Intune surveys. All right, so let's go ahead and let's open up the board for questions here. So does anyone have any questions about all of what we just covered? And then after we're done taking questions, then I'll kind of give you a little bit of a sneak peek on what we're going to cover next week. All right. So I know that we went pretty deep into this. So there's like, how are you guys feeling in terms of like information wise? Like, is this good? Is this overwhelming? I know there's a lot of stuff. Is this valuable? Again, this is kind of like research for me as well. Like adding this, I wanted this to be a complete bonus so you could really kind of fine tune it and make it as valuable as possible. So, is this a good amount of stuff? Do you like the length of the sessions? Levi's feeling overwhelmed, but I mean that's just classic Levi. I could show you like two things and you'd be like, I'm overwhelmed, but it's okay. That's that's why I love you. Um, Kelsey said most of it's review for me after having done one-on-one in the conference, but I like hearing it again to help it sink in better. Yeah, so Kelsey, I mean, especially you were there at the live event that we did. So live event, like a lot of this is fleshed out from the live event specifically. So there's some new stuff that we're covering here, but it is going to help kind of getting it really to sink in, because it is one of those things where a lot of times you hear something once and you don't fully understand it. What is it like? We need to hear something like 3 to 5 times before like it really kind of sinks in for us. Aaron asks, the Superfan avatar cues are the Intune or hyper Intune survey. I would say that these avatar cues are like, they're for you to kind of discover like over time, just to focus in on and like ask these questions in general. But I would say that the majority of them are probably going to be like the hyper Intune survey, where you could go a little bit deeper. Those examples of the Intune survey, those were like the light version, like the light version of all of these questions. So I would take those conversations and do them in a way that feels natural. And you're probably going to find out, like, based on your style of relating with people, like which questions feel good, which ones like land. You might even tweak some of the questions to just kind of fit better, like what you're looking to get. So I struggle learning things the first time I hear it, so this is super valuable. Yay! Awesome. All right. Nate says a lot of this seems to take place after the value ladder lesson session, and about having the merch available if we're trying to acquire sales. I may be behind. Yeah, Nate. So you're totally like a new recruit right now. So I would say in terms of the group program, yeah, just kind of going like in order would probably be helpful. But in terms of like us working together, the offer and avatar session that we're going to do is really going to help clarify a lot of like your specific situation. I think that's kind of one of the biggest things that we offer within the program is like the personalized approach, because it does really help to see things like for your situation and kind of meet you where you're at. So, so yeah, don't get too overwhelmed with like everything that we're covering here. If you feel like some of it's kind of past where you're at before, like we'll get there. And it's definitely useful, I think, to kind of, even if you're not ready for it yet, it can be really inspiring and kind of helpful to see like what's coming up, so that when we get there, it's just kind of like, oh yeah, like this is what's happening now. So some of those things are going to start to click into place. Levi says, do I need to have MindNode installed to see the maps? No, you do not, because they'll just be PDFs. So you can just open them up and just see them from anywhere. Landon says you can sell merchandise before you actually have it by making mock-ups. Boom, boom, boom. Super smart. Yeah, I think that's one thing that we've mentioned before is like, you don't actually, I actually recommend doing it this way, where before you print out a ton of merchandise and spend like a lot of money getting inventory for something, I would recommend selling it first and making sure that it sells. And you can do that by just having like a mock-up. So just having like an image of what like it looks like. So essentially, see, I think I have them from last lesson. Maybe I have it in the value ladder. So basically a mock-up looks like this, where Katie Turley got the inner circle. it has some of the different items there. Like these aren't actually like on a table. It's kind of an illusion where they just took this design and put it on this mock-up, and that lets you sell things even before you actually have them created. So yeah, so what I would say is like before you even like print out a ton of the merchandise, probably would be more valuable to get the mock-ups done for them and to offer them. And you could frame it as if it's like as if it's a pre-order. So you can say, because a lot of times people are actually like, they're even more willing to get a pre-order than the actual thing. Like there's something about the anticipation of like pre-ordering something that's kind of exciting. So, so yeah, even if you don't have your starter pack yet, if you at least create the mock-up for it, then you can use that as a way to make sales. Nice, dude. Not bad. Hip hop is my habit. I dig it. And we got habit spelled with one B this time. When we first saw that, it was spelled with two B's. It was like Hobbit. Hip hop is my habit. It should have like a picture of Frodo. Hip hop is my habit, and he's got like a backwards cap on. He's like looking cool. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a quick look at sneak peek at week number 4. So week number 4, next week, we're going to talk about the 4-step process to convert new listeners into superfans. So basically, like what we want to do is now that you have a clear idea of like who is your superfan, at least like you're gonna clarify this over time. Like as you get more and more people coming through, you're gonna get a better idea of like, who are the superfans. But when you get really clear on those people, then we need a good system for converting them from being someone who's like completely cold, who's just listening for the first time, to building a relationship, building that connection, and turning them into more dedicated superfans. And so I'm going to walk you through the 4-step process to do that. And yeah, I'm super excited. It's going to be fun. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing these with you guys. You guys are awesome. I'm feeling a little bit, I don't know if you could tell or not, but I'm feeling like a little bit tired today, mostly because I stayed up late last night to watch the new Game of Thrones episode. I didn't realize that it was going to be like an hour and a half long, and it was awesome. I don't know if anyone here watches Game of Thrones, but I got like about 6 hours of sleep last night, which really isn't bad. It really isn't bad, but for me, like I'm used to getting about 8 hours, so I'm a little tired. But sorry, Michael, can you quickly review how to initiate the conversations again? Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll give you guys the 3 examples so you can see like exactly what we said there to start the conversations. For you, so you're talking about people from the music video, so like starting conversations with those people. Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of people who are digging it. So what I would do is there's a couple of different things you could do it. You could add them as a friend, and then if they accept the friend request, then you could reach out to them personally. I think you could probably get about 10 people to do that. You might click in here and just like look at all the hearts. And so these could be good examples because like super fans are a lot more likely to heart. You could look at the shares and add those people as friends. And you could even like, if you didn't want to add them to your personal Facebook, maybe you can create like a separate Facebook personal profile for like Iris for like her music. She could do it that way. But I think it's probably better if she just uses her actual profile if she's comfortable with that. And just like, look at the people who are sharing it and look at the people who are loving it and just invite the people to connect with that she thinks look like people that she would like to connect with and look like potential super fans. Because you're probably going to see a good amount of those people who match those same characteristics that we talked about, who are like, they're like, all about music. And So I wouldn't just initiate the conversation without adding the friend first. You could, but the issue with that is that when you send a message to someone who's not your friend, it goes to like this separate inbox and it goes to show up as a request. Yeah, exactly. So they probably won't see it for a while. And I think most people are like pretty attuned to like if they get like a friend request, I would say probably, especially if they like could see her profile, like her personal profile, and they're like, oh, like she's like the musician, like she has a kind of a cool looking. Oh hey, so I get messages like this sometimes from your pages. Loved it, great song. Then they're probably going to recognize her from like this video. Like maybe she could even post this like on her page or something. And then when she like adds them as a friend, they're probably pretty likely to add you back. And once they do that, then I think following up with the message would make sense. Again, like I also don't want you get you like too wrapped up with needing to get these conversations from one source of traffic. Like really, it's about like any source of traffic as long as it's where your super fans congregate. So like that Instagram method, I think is a great method too. There's a lot of people on Instagram that you could follow and message them that way. I think it might go to inbox since they commented first. I could be wrong. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I don't think I'm an admin on Iris Loon's page, so I can't see it for sure. But you might be able to message if they've left a comment here. You might be able to message. Worth a test. There's an option to message the comment. Well, that's cool. So if they comment, you can do it. It might still be a challenge if like they just shared it, or if they're just someone who just hearted but they didn't leave a comment. But you could at least reach out to people who are commenting. Cool. All right. Cool. So hey, this is a lot of fun. Hope that this was valuable for you guys. I guess let's do a quick. Can you tell that I'm like green? That this is that I'm still new doing these group coaching sessions. Let's go back and just kind of recap maybe a few of your favorite takeaways. Again, this is really valuable for me just to kind of see like what was valuable for you, so that I know what to focus on in like future lessons when I do this. So, out of everything we talked about today, what are some of your favorite key takeaways? All right, so I'm still waiting. Was there anything valuable, guys? The Superfan avatar. Honestly, I had a lot of fun setting that up. Speaking to one or small audiences when recording videos. Yeah, that's really, really powerful. Cool. Any other ones? Keep them coming. I'm gonna be playing some piano to create some mood music. James says strategies for reaching out to people. Oh yeah, Aaron, that's a really good one. Your family and friends are not your super fans. Yeah, because like a lot of times families and friends, like they are super fans, like a certain kind of super fan, but they're not the kind of people who are like into the music just for the music. Yeah, 100%. Lance said, I really found the very first thing you said. We already talked about how we set our own temperatures, but it was very interesting to talk about how others have a temperature for you also. Things make so much sense now. Yes, dude, that's huge. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's really hard for people who are trying to make a positive change. For example, like they have an addiction and they're trying to like overcome that, but then they like go back to their friend group, and it's really hard. It's really hard to make a big change without breaking some of those existing habits or like relationships that see you in a certain way. And sometimes whether they want what's best for you or not, if they have that thermostat set for you, it's just how it's going to naturally pull you in that direction. Can you link those headphones that split in half so you can listen with a potential fan? James, if you want to reach out to me separately, so that's something we're going to cover in tour hacking. But I have definitely got that link for you. I mean, it's really simple. If you just, I'll just pull it up for you right now. Actually, I think it's in my blueprints. Blueprints. The only problem with these headphones is that they're like super, super expensive. I don't know if you can see the price on here. They're only available from third-party sellers. Oh, really? They're more expensive than they used to be. Usually they're like $8. Yeah, I'm just joking. They're not expensive at all. They're super cheap. Oh gosh, Amazon, why are you making this so hard for me just to grab the link? Here we go. There you go. All right, guys. I got to head out. I'm sorry. I'm giving you all my energy, and I'm like, I think I need to take a nap or something. Damn Game of Thrones is kept me up too late. But yeah, hopefully this was valuable for you guys. Next week we're going to be talking about the fan funnel, so automation. Levi's, thanks for being so generous with your time. Sleep tight, sweetie. Guys, you're making me feel so loved right now. Yeah, so this Thursday, also before next Monday, we're going to be doing our Q&A. So if you have any more questions or just an open Q&A, then that's a good place to bring those. And yeah, you guys are awesome. Thank you for all the kind words, and excited to see some of these results from the Intune surveys that you guys do with your fans. All right, bye.